Welcome to Dramatic Paths, where every choice changes a destiny. Here, no one escapes the past, but no one is beyond transformation. True stories, unexpected twists, broken lives, and rebuilt. If you've ever faced a silent battle, if you've ever been at rock bottom, you're in the right place. Because on these dramatic paths, the miracle always comes after pain. I didn't walk into Cedar and Honey as a customer. I walked in as a ghost, a man who owned everything, wealth, influence, a penthouse overlooking Charleston's harbor, and yet carry a hollowness no bank statement could fill. This restaurant, with its gentle name and heavy silence, was a dying thing, and I needed to know why. So I traded my tailored suits for faded jeans, my Rolex for scuffed sneakers. I became Elias Price, a name plucked from the wind. And then I saw her. She didn't smile like the others, didn't glide with practiced politeness. She stood there, notepad resting on her hip, brown eyes sharp and kind, as if she'd seen through every mask I wore. You look tired. 3 words. Simple, natural, and they stopped me cold. My coffee cup, halfway to my lips, froze in midair. The air in the dining room, thick with unspoken fear, suddenly thinned. I turned slowly. She wasn't looking at my suit. She wasn't looking at my wallet. She was looking at me. The name tag on her burgundy apron read, Mara Bell. Her vibe? Bold, light, sarcastic, a spark of rebellion, in a place that had forgotten how to breathe. Tired? I repeated, dumbfounded. Yeah, she said, smiling faintly. You got that look. Someone who works too much, sleeps too little, thinks coffee can fix everything. I offered a small smile. Maybe it can. I doubt it, she replied. This coffee? Strong, but it's not a miracle. She laughed then, a sound like wind through magnolia leaves, and walked away. I watched her go. There was something magnetic about Mara, an energy that didn't belong here. While the other staff moved like ghosts afraid to make a sound, she walked like she owned the floor, not with arrogance, but with quiet defiance. I scanned the room. Old wooden tables, faded curtains, a chandelier covered in dust. The decor had potential, but the soul? Stifled. I was the new owner. I'd come here pretending to be a guest, hoping to understand why this place was bleeding employees, why the numbers didn't add up. And in 5 minutes, I found my answer. She returned with my coffee, steaming, fragrant, perfect. Careful, she warned, playful grin in place. It's strong enough to wake up the owner of this place. I almost laughed. I hope so. She turned to leave, but not for long. A man emerged from the kitchen, bulky, red-faced, eyes like a hawk scanning for prey. Dale Voss. The name whispered to the room like a curse. Mara, he barked. I told you to clean the back. I didn't walk into Cedar and Honey to find a broken restaurant. I walked in to find myself, and she found me first. Mara Bell, with that look, bright, unafraid, like she'd already seen through every lie I wore. When she said, "You look tired," it wasn't just observation. It was an invitation. An invitation I hadn't accepted in years. I'd spent my life trading heartbeats for balance sheets, people for profit margins. But Mara, she served coffee like it was communion, and I was starving. The next morning, I parked 3 blocks away, not in my Mercedes, but in a gray sedan with dents on the fender. I wore faded jeans, a white shirt that had seen better days, and sneakers that squeaked like a confession. I was no longer Elias Thorne, billionaire. I was Jack Price, unemployed, searching, human. And when I pushed open the back door marked employees only, she was already there. Wait a sec, she called. I turned, backpack slung over one shoulder, coffee in hand, eyes sharp with recognition. You came in last week, she said, tilting her head. Ordered coffee. Didn't tip like a jerk. She smirked. I remember you. My throat tightened. Yeah. And now, she gestured to the staff door. You're applying? I got the job, I said, trying to sound casual. New waiter. Her eyes widened. Then she laughed, real unhurried, like sunlight breaking through clouds. You? A waiter? Is that a problem? No, she said, still smiling. Just good luck. You're going to need it. She held the door open. I stepped inside. The break room smelled of burnt coffee and quiet desperation. Rusted lockers lined the walls. 2 young men hovered near the sink. A woman in her 50s adjusted her apron without looking up. Mara cleared her throat. Everyone, this is Jack. New guy. She glanced at me. Try not to laugh too hard when he drops his first tray. One of the guys gave a half smile. The woman just nodded and walked out. I fumbled with my apron. Put it on backward. Mara burst out laughing. Oh, this is going to be fun. The first shift was chaos. I spilled broth on a customer's lap, dropped a full tray of silverware, tried to carry 4 plates at once, and nearly collapsed like a house of cards. But every time I failed, she was there. Hold it from the bottom, she'd say, steadying my hands. Slow steps. This isn't a race. You're holding that tray like it's going to explode, she teased once. Relax. It won't bite. I'm trying, I muttered. Of course you are, she grinned. You're working. The morning after the contest, Elias woke hollow. Mara was gone, not just from the stage, not just from the restaurant, from him. He replayed the reporter's words like a knife twisting in his chest. You're Andrew Hoffman, the billionaire. The way she'd stiffened, the way she let go of his hand, as if it had burned her, the way she'd walked away without looking back. He'd spent weeks earning her trust, and lost it in 10 seconds. He arrived at Cedar and Honey at dawn, heart pounding. The staff room was quiet. Then he saw her. Mara stood by her locker, packing her life into a cardboard box. Her hands moved fast, angry, efficient, final. Mara, he whispered. She didn't turn. Please, he said, stepping closer. Let me explain. She finally faced him. No tears. No shouting. Just a quiet rage that cut deeper than any scream. Explain what, Elias? She said, voice sharp as shattered glass. That you lied to me every single day? That you let me pour my heart out to a ghost? That you made me fall for a version of you that didn't even exist? He flinched. I wasn't pretending how I felt, he said, voice breaking. Every word, every laugh, every moment, it was real. But the man wasn't, she countered. You were playing a role, and I was just part of the script. He opened his mouth. No words came, because she was right. She closed the box. I quit, she said. I won't work for someone who thinks truth is optional. Before he could respond, she walked out. And this time, she didn't look back. The silence that followed was deafening. Then came Dale's voice, dripping with venom. Guess the little thief finally ran. Smart move, before we pressed charges. Elias turned. Something inside him snapped. That's enough, he said, voice low, dangerous. Dale smirked. Or what, Jack? Elias stepped forward. Or you'll find out who I really am. He turned to the stunned staff. My name is Elias Thorne. I own this place. And for the past month, I've watched you suffer under a man who thrives on fear. Gasps, murmurs, disbelief. Dale paled. You can't prove anything. Elias pulled out his notebook. I've documented every humiliation, every lie, every threat, and I have witnesses. Elena, the pregnant cook, stepped forward. He's telling the truth. Dale cornered me last month. Told me to go home and stay there with my belly. Linda, the quiet waitress, nodded. He called me useless just for spilling water. One by one, voices rose, finally free. Dale's face twisted in panic. They're lying. This is a setup. No, Elias said calmly. This is justice. He turned to Dale. You're fired. Effective immediately. Dale lunged, but security was already there. As they dragged him out, he snarled, You'll regret this, Thorne. I'll ruin you in the papers. Elias didn't flinch. Go ahead. I'll tell the truth first. That afternoon, he held a press conference. He admitted his deception. He apologized to his staff. And he cleared Mara's name, publicly, fully, fiercely. But none of it mattered if she wouldn't see him. He went to her apartment. She let him speak for 5 minutes. then said only, "I need time." He left an envelope, a job offer, executive chef, Cedar and Honey, full creative 6 months after the food truck, Cedar and Honey reopened, not as a restaurant, but as a sanctuary. The walls were no longer silent. Laughter echoed from the kitchen. Guests lingered after dessert, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. And at the heart of it all stood Mara Bell, executive chef co-owner, and the soul who refused to be dimmed. Elias watched her from the doorway, arms crossed, heart full. She moved like poetry in motion, apron dusted with flour, hair in a messy bun, eyes sharp with purpose. "You're staring again," she called without turning. "Can you blame me?" he replied, stepping inside. She finally faced him, spoon in hand, sauce dripping. "You're supposed to be reviewing contracts, not mooning over your fiancé in the middle of dinner service." "I canceled the meeting." "Elias." She sighed, but her lips twitched. "You can't keep doing that." "I can," he said, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Because every time I walk in here, I remember why I walked out of every boardroom." She leaned into him. "Because I burned risotto?" "Because you burn it with love," he whispered. She laughed, a sound that had healed them both. That night, the restaurant was packed, not just with customers, but with stories. Linda, the former waitress, now ran her own Italian place and brought her entire staff to celebrate. Elena, the pregnant cook Dale had humiliated, returned with her baby in tow, smiling brighter than ever. Even the dishwasher from those early days came back, not to work, but to eat. "Wanted to taste the famous reconciliation risotto," he'd said with a wink. Thomas Green, the food critic, sat at table 7, taking notes. "This isn't just a meal," he told Elias. "It's a second chance served on a plate." Elias smiled. "That's the idea." Later, as dessert was served, truth pie, sweet but honest, Mara pulled Elias aside. "Remember when you asked me why I worked at that awful place?" she asked softly. He nodded. "You said talent doesn't pay the bills." "Well," she said, eyes glistening, "turns out honesty does." He kissed her forehead. "No, you do." She rolled her eyes, but squeezed his hand. "Go mingle, and don't spill any wine on the investors this time." "I make no promises," he grinned. As he walked to the dining room, Elias saw what numbers could never show. A grandmother teaching her granddaughter to say, "Thank you," to the server. 2 estranged brothers sharing a plate of forgiveness chicken, laughing for the first time in years. A young couple holding hands over bowls of hope soup, whispering dreams. This was never about profit. It was about people. And Mara? She was the reason he finally understood. At closing, after the last guest left and the staff went home, they sat together at their favorite corner table. Silence. Warm. Full. "You ever miss the penthouse?" she asked. "Not for a second," he said. "That place had a view. But this," he gestured to the empty chair. 1 year after the reopening, Cedar and Honey wasn't just a restaurant. It was a movement. People came not just for the food, but for the story behind it. A story of broken trust rebuilt, of silence shattered by laughter, of a man who learned to serve before he learned to lead, and a woman who never stopped believing, even when the world tried to convince her otherwise. Elias stood by the kitchen door every morning, watching Mara. She moved like a symphony, chopping, stirring, tasting. Her hair in that messy bun, her apron stained with love. "You're late," she called without turning. "Traffic," he lied. She smirked. "You walked from next door." Don't lie to the woman who knows you burned water last week. He stepped closer, slipped his arms around her waist. "I missed you." "Liar," she said softly, but leaned into him. Their partnership was more than business. It was covenant. Every dish on the menu carried a chapter of their journey. Forgiveness chicken, because everyone stumbles. Restart soup, because second chances taste better with garlic and thyme. Truth pie, sweet yes, but never sugar-coated. Customers asked for the stories behind the names. Mara told them with pride, not to boast, but to remind them, you can fall, but you don't have to stay down. One rainy Tuesday, a young man walked in, drenched and nervous. "I heard you hire people based on heart, not resume," he said. Mara looked at him, really looked, saw the same tired eyes Elias once had. She handed him an apron. "Start tomorrow," she said. "But warning, the owner's a disaster with trays." Elias laughed from the corner. "Guilty." The boy stared. You're Elias Thorne." "And you," Eli said, extending a hand, "are about to learn that a restaurant isn't built on profits, but on people who choose kindness even when it's hard." That night, as they closed up, Mara leaned against the counter, exhausted but radiant. "You changed everything," she whispered. "No," Elias said, brushing a flour-dusted strand from her cheek. "We did." He pulled a small envelope from his pocket. She raised an eyebrow. "Not another job offer?" "Better." Inside was a deed to a plot of land on the edge of Charleston. "What's this?" "Our next chapter," he said. "A culinary school for kids who can't afford tuition. Taught by you." Mara's eyes filled. "You can't be serious." "I've never been more serious." She hugged him so tight he couldn't breathe, and in that embrace, 5 years after the reopening of Cedar and Honey, the restaurant no longer needed signs to tell its story. The story lived in every bite, every laugh, every handshake at the door. Mara Bell stood at the host stand one quiet Thursday morning, her apron slightly flour-dusted, her hair in that signature messy bun. She wasn't just greeting guests. She was welcoming family, because that's what Cedar and Honey had become. Not a business, a beacon. Behind her, the dining room hummed with life. A young couple shared forgiveness chicken on their first anniversary. An elderly man taught his grandson say thank you in 3 languages while eating Restart soup. At the far table, a group of culinary students, scholarship recipients from the Mara Bell Culinary Foundation, took notes between bites, eyes wide with wonder. Elias Thorne walked in through the back, carrying a tray of fresh magnolia blossoms for the tables. He still dropped one. Mara rolled her eyes and caught it before it hit the floor. "Clumsy," she teased. "Hopelessly," he grinned. Their son, Gabriel, age 4, came barreling out of the kitchen with a wooden spoon like a sword. "Mama, Papa, I saved the risotto from the smoke monster." Mara knelt, brushing flour from his cheek. "You're our little kitchen hero." Elias ruffled his hair. "Just like your mom, turns disasters into miracles." Gabriel beamed. "Can I serve dessert now?" "After you wash your hands," Mara said, standing. As the boy ran off, Elias took Mara's hand. "You know," he said softly, "I used to think success was a skyline view and a balance sheet." She smiled. "And now I know it's this." He gestured to the room, to the laughter, the clinking glasses, the grandmother feeding her granddaughter a spoonful of hope pie. "It's showing up day after day, with your heart wide open." Mara squeezed his finger. "If this story touched your heart, don't keep that emotion to yourself. Leave a like, because every like helps bring hope to those who are still in the darkness. Subscribe to Dramatic Paths, because every week we have a new real journey, full of twists, forgiveness, and second chances. Share, especially with someone who needs to hear. Your story isn't over yet. And in the comments, I want to know, did this story remind you of someone? Tell your experience. Your words can be the light someone else needs. Thank you for watching. Until the next Dramatic Path, subscribe, turn on notifications, and never stop believing.